Welcome back to the Temple of Technology. I am your host, Scott James Magner, the idiot with a microphone. It's time for another episode of So Here's the Deal, the RS Entertainment webcast where I explore my vast media collection and talk about what each piece means to me and my friends. In this episode, we're continuing our David Lynch Film Festival with another episode of Twin Peaks Season 2. Welcome back, everyone, to the collaboration room. I am the idiot with a microphone, and with me is my co-host and co-conspirator,
Julie
Queen
McGalliard.
of Darkness, Julie
Queen of
McGalliard.
Darkness.
Oh, awesome! So happy.
I didn't know if you'd remember that I was officially the Queen of Darkness.
You can't see it, but if you were to cast your gaze down, you would see that it says Queen of Darkness
Excellent.
right below you. This is
Does
really
it say
funny.
it in the
No, it says it in the same font that I've got.
Okay.
I can make that the Twin Peaks font, but we'll do that later. This is really funny for us. Why we're laughing is we have been recording episodes all this year, and we haven't published any of them. So we have been dutifully making our time to spend with Dave here in the middle, and we're dialing it in to see what we need to do. But these are our introduction segment, and so I have introduced Julie. Julie, introduce us. What are we doing today?
Well, we are talking about Twin Peaks as part of our David Lynch revisitation series. And we are up to season 2, episode 7, aka episode 14, aka episode 15, aka Lonely Souls, aka the one where it happens. And no, I don't mean that other thing.
Yeah. Although, I'm not ruling it out, to be perfectly honest.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that in expanded coverage, because I'm glad you brought up the creature that lives in the sewers of Derry. It's relevant to our interests. So yes, we are here as part of our David Lynch Film Festival. We are talking about the episode formerly known as episode 14 or 15 or 7, Lonely Souls. This is the return of director David Lynch and writer Mark Frost in those roles specifically. This is not a David Lynch written episode, but as the director, he had a hand in shaping it. He had a hand in making it where it happened. So this originally aired November 10th, 1990. And I have mentioned in previous episodes of this webcast the declining viewership of Twin Peaks Season 2. That shit ends tonight, because this episode had a 17.2 share, which is 6 million more households tuned in this week from last week. And a lot of it is the giant cliffhanger that the last episode ended on, where Mike is giving the poem and reveals that Bob is hiding out at the Great Northern. So that's pretty awesome. It stopped a downward trend. This episode is the highest rated of the season that was not the pilot, or not the first episode of the season. And it is far and away the best Twin Peaks will get this year in 1990. But we'll get into that in our next segment, our first impressions. So, as an overview, Twin Peaks is in decline. The network has been forcing David's hand in what he is to do, and he delivered this episode to satisfy the network. And as it turns out, it satisfied all of us too. Not as much as they might have wanted. Viewership goes down again next week, but it is better than the week before and better than a week before that. So it is another month, another 3 weeks before viewership craters again, and then it just steadily goes down. And that's a shame, because the winter of 1990, lots of interesting stuff was going on. just not as much of it on ABC. And this is about when they start to really monkey with the dates. So the week after this is November 17th, is when the next episode, Drive with a Dead Girl, happens. Spoilers. And then we don't get another episode until the first week of December, December 1st. And it's weekly for half of December, and then it picks up again in January. And then it's weekly for 2 weeks in January, and it picks up in February, where it goes through 3 weeks of February, and then we go into March. The end of March, almost the entire month of March goes. And then there's 2 episodes in April, and then it jumps to June, and it's just gut shot. The season loses all of its narrative at the end of November of 1990, and it never recovers it. And it's a shame. It's the beginning of the end. You know, we might even get to the point where we'll start covering 2 episodes again, because the content of these episodes also decreases as the viewership decreases. New plots come, new things happen, but this is the high point. And this, to me, like Demons before it, I said the last time I recorded, Demons is what I think of when I think of Twin Peaks Season 2. I also think of Lonely Souls. I think of them as one unit of Twin Peaks Season 2. And we're here to talk about that today. So we are watching my Blu-ray copies of Twin Peaks A to Z, the complete story. We are on the Blu-rays, of course. I watched these on Region 1 and Region 2 DVDs in the late 90s. I did not watch them live. Julie, you did watch it live. What was the impression of what was going on? Or nearly live?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is I think, and granted, it's been long enough, my memory's a little fuzzy, but I seem to remember that we were out of town or something and did not actually catch this particular episode live, but rather watched it a few days later on VHS, that our group of people with whom we watched Twin Peaks had taped it. And I seem to remember them rewatching it with us, perhaps because they wanted to observe our reaction. And I think in my notes that I gave you, I compared it to in Game of Thrones, where there's that episode, The Reigns of Castamere, and there was a little YouTube thing where people who had read the books filmed their friends watching it just so they could get the reaction shot when everybody was like, "Ah, what the hell was that?" And you know, I think we were getting the same treatment, although with that, this was before YouTube.
Indeed. So let's, before we spoil everything, why don't you read us the Wikipedia summary of your choice?
Wikipedia summary.
Yeah.
It's funny because the Wikipedia summaries are very, very variable.
Yeah.
Based on how much I guess how much people like the episode, really, because Wikipedia is a do-it-yourself. But I'm going to read the short version because
this one does have a long one. That's why I brought it up.
This one does have a long one, but I'm going to read the short one. Episode 14, Lonely Souls. Hawk investigates Harold after Donna reveals that he has Laura's diary, but discovers that he has hanged himself, leaving a note reading, "J'ai un âme solitaire." My French is not great. Maddie tells Leland Maddie tells Leland and Sarah that she is returning home. Bobby discovers a hidden cassette tape in the heel of Leo's boots. Audrey confronts Ben, revealing that she knows he owns One-Eyed Jacks, and Ben admits that he slept with and loved Laura. The pages from the diary are reconstructed, revealing that Laura was molested and abused by Bob, and that she planned to tell the world about Ben Horn. After Audrey reveals her information about Ben, Cooper and Truman arrest him. The log lady tells Cooper there are owls at a bar called the Roadhouse information. It is not called. Anyway,
Hmm.
we'll talk about that later. Going to the roadhouse, Cooper has a vision of the giant saying, "It is happening again." I don't like the way I stumbled over that. It is happening again. There. At the Palmer house, Leland, possessed by Bob, drugs Sarah, and murders Maddie, placing a letter under her fingernail. At the roadhouse, Donna, Bobby, James, and Cooper sense that something has happened. The senile waiter the senile waiter tells Cooper, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
There are a number of things in that they're just flatly wrong. As
Yeah, they're just
as
so wrong. And the expanded one, not as wrong, but it at least has
mm,
more stuff going on. And of course, Twin Peaks Wiki, the source of all truth, has a very nice summary of it, which also misses the mark a lot
yeah.
as things go through here. But time to rip off that band-aid, kids. Bob is Leland Palmer. Mike told us in a previous episode that they would possess people and do stuff and make things happen. Now we see that Bob is who Leland sees, or rather, who Bob sees in the mirror is himself and not Leland. He's driving around in Leland. And so every so often we see Leland do something Leland-like, or he's overcome by grief. That's Leland Palmer. The rest of the time, that's Bob. And we've been seeing Bob for a very, very long time. It is disturbing how good Ray Wise pulls this off. It is astounding what he does with this role. This episode colors your opinion of Ray Wise and his characters for the next 40 years. Saw him in a beautiful television show called The Closer about Los Angeles police detectives, and he was a defense lawyer. He was a very good defense lawyer, and he said, I will do this thing, but you cannot ask me what I learned about this. And he opens up a box, looks at it, and goes, "Oh, that's nice." And he takes the thing in a way, and everyone wants to know what was in the box. He says, "That wasn't the deal." So he takes his box and he leaves, and everyone's going, "What?" And he's like, "That's because Bob's got your box now, bitches." You don't know what he's gonna do. You just gave the keys to the kingdom to somebody that you cannot trust. And he's amazing. He has acted in everything, Ray Wise. In fact, he was in Star Trek 2 or 3 times in the Next Generation era. And he's great every time. Every time he comes on the stage, you're going, "Ooh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?" You know what's going to happen. It's Ray Wise. He's the bad guy. But he's so good. He's so amazing in this role and as Bob. And in the expanded coverage, we'll go into just how disturbing it really was. But this is a major turning point. And as I mentioned earlier, this is what people wanted. They wanted to know who killed Laura Palmer. It was Leland Palmer. And guess who else is dead? Her cousin, who looks exactly like her. Not great. Not a fun time. And we don't know why it happened yet. But somebody does know why it happened. And it's our pal, yours and mine, the Log Lady. So let's check in with the Log Lady real fast. Come back, and we'll move on with our first impressions.
A poem as lovely as a tree. As the night wind blows, the boughs move to and fro. The rustling, the magic rustling that brings on the dark dream. The dream of suffering and pain. Pain for the victim, pain for the inflictor of pain. A circle of pain. A circle of suffering. Woe to the ones who behold the pale horse.
Thanks, Log Lady. Cryptic as always. And if you're listening to this as a podcast rather than watching as a video on YouTube, you did not see the trailer with us just now. The the Log Lady intros that were recorded a few years after the fact. So Julie, the Queen of Darkness, is going to read us the Log Lady intro as the Log Lady.
A poem as lovely as a tree. As the night wind blows, the boughs move to and fro, the rustling, the magic rustling that brings on the dark dream. The dream of suffering and pain. Pain for the victim, pain for the inflictor of pain. A circle of pain, a circle of suffering. Woe to the ones who behold the pale horse. Side note, I am in the process of crocheting myself an amiguri
Nice.
log. So that is my current project. We'll see how it turns out.
So super happy about that. We're gonna have that here on our video series, and it will be fantastic. All right, that is our overview. Let's move on to our first impressions.
Diane, in first impressions, we should talk about experiencing the piece for the first time, how it bears up over repeated viewings, and general chit-chat about the episode.
After recording. First impressions, Queen of Darkness, take us away.
I love this episode. I basically love everything about this episode. It's one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. And it's it also establishes what I think of as the platonic ideal of Twin Peaks, which is Mark Frost writing and David Lynch directing. Which when they do the return, that's the formula they used.
Every episode, yep.
Because I think they mesh, synergy is going on. And one of the things I really appreciated about this episode is how it actually took some of the subplots, like the Mr. Tojimura and Nadine think she's in high school. It took some subplots that I find ridiculous and tedious and hate them. In this particular episode, they're actually treated with a kind of, they're treated in a more Lynchian way. So they're creepy and weird. They're silly, but in a context of Lynchian weirdness, silly takes on this kind of ominous tone that I appreciate. I remember the moment when Maddie is killed, like the moment, or I guess the moment that her death scene starts, where she's coming down the stairs, in a panic because she smells something burning. And then that hot spotlight catches her and she reacts like, Leland as Bob rushes after her and she reacts screaming and running away. I mean, that moment just kind of lodged in my brain permanently. And it's just one of the most amazing and terrifying and brutal things I've ever seen. And it was on network television, which still kind of blows my mind.
If you, dear watchers, have not seen this episode, or it's been a long time since you've seen this episode and you haven't seen it in glorious high definition, you can hear every meaty impact of Leland Palmer's fist as he's beating his niece to death. The surrogate for his daughter, who's already killed once. Now he's killing her again, and he's going to do it right this time. And it is brutal, and it's hard, and it's cringy, and it just gets into you. And no, please stop. Okay, I get the idea. No, okay, you can stop now. I get the idea. And she's still alive, and still alive, and still alive until she's not. And we move on. And it, just as Julie said, it's brutal, it's hard, it's unsettling. Network television. ABC. Now you can see that on any kind of channel, right? I mean, that's medical dramas or cop shows or whatever. You see that kind of stuff going on, but it wasn't like that before 1990. You couldn't have men and women sleeping in the same bed, right? Yeah, or at least it was hard to do. You know, you had to really establish that they were married and not just going around. So it's big, and I echo Julie's concept of this. Is like I mentioned in the overview, this is Twin Peaks season 2 to me. Is this episode and Demons together? They are the gestalt of what you need to have happen after season 1. So season 1 was a movie, and this was a movie, and then there's some other movie happening after this. This is what's important to get to this spot. Now, obviously, the story is not done. There are many more episodes this season that we have to get into and go through. But it's big, and it's hard, and it almost bounced me this time through because I was waiting for that moment, and I had forgotten completely about the coffee. The 5 or 6 minutes at the beginning of this episode where all the menfolk are sitting in a line drinking coffee. And they say, okay, Hawk, we need you to go and get a warrant to search Harold Smith's apartment. And he goes, yep, as soon as I finish my coffee. And then they keep telling him, all right, but it's really important. We think there's a diary there. Oh, yeah, diary. Got it. Yeah. I mean, Gordon Cole is in that scene. Sheriff Truman's in that scene. One-Armed Mike is in that scene. And they're just sitting there drinking coffee, standing against the wall. It is bizarre and crazy and completely at odds with the rest of the episode. And at the end of the episode, while Bob is beating Maddie to death, everybody, and I mean everybody, is hanging out at the Roadhouse listening to Julie Cruzy sing a crazy song. And it's the crazy song that we heard her sing in Industrial Symphony. That was kooky and disturbing and unsettling out of context as a concert movie. And now she's singing it as the backdrop to somebody being beat to death. That's a huge deal. And then the Giant is back. Wow, the Giant is there. He's just kind of happening on stage. And he gives you something that, a little bit of information. The Log Lady is at the bar with them, hanging out, watching the show.
Eating peanuts.
Eating peanuts. So like,
she's so into these peanuts. Like,
she's got
really
a log
dedicated
in one hand, and she's eating peanuts like this, and Dale's watching the show, what's going on. And out of nowhere, we get the old waiter shuffling over. And Dale doesn't know what to make of this, right? Because the Giant just said something is happening again. Log Lady said there are owls in the Roadhouse. He walks over and goes, I'm so sorry. And it shuffles away.
That's a pretty good impression of that guy.
Yeah, I had a lot of time to practice it because it takes him so long to get from place to place. Shuffle. He moves on. Another giant thing for me, first impressions, and I'm covering it here instead of expanded coverage because I have a lot more to say about it in expanded coverage, is Audrey Horne getting her justice. So Audrey goes in, talks to Benjamin Horne. I almost refuse to call him her father. She goes and talks to Ben Horne and says, bad things happened to me there. And he goes, what happened? And it's like, well, let me ask you a question. Do you own One-Eye Jacks? How long? And she says, how long have you owned One-Eye Jacks? And then he goes to the things. I was there. Remember Prudence, White Mask? And he goes, you see the blood drain out of his face.
He almost literally makes that face too. This exaggerated ooh face. It's.
And then she says, and then she just starts grilling him on Laura, right? Laura, who came into the house, took care of her brother, whom we never see again. You know, was a part of their family or part of their circle. He admits to having sex with her. He says he loved her, but it's not possible for that to have been sex. That was rape. You raped Laura Palmer in your Canadian bordello drug den casino. That's not a consensual relationship. That was bad. And you damn near raped your daughter, which you just realized, and then you just blew it off because you just want to explain yourself. Oh, I was in love. And what's Audrey's response to all this? Not to pull out a gun and shoot him, which would be perfectly justified in doing. Nope. She goes and talks to Dale Cooper.
You know,
She
I
does
think
what
she.
any rational teenage human being should do. Seeks out someone in a position of authority and tells them what's going on. It's something that none of the other kid detectives do. Ever.
Al- Although honestly, I think that she realizes correctly that he will hate going to jail
Yeah.
more than he would hate getting shot in the head.
Yeah.
So I think that as revenge goes, she picks the correct
She picked the
revenge.
right
Not
time, yeah.
only is it morally justifiable, shockingly sensible, I think it's also the thing that he will hate the most.
Yeah. So they round up the troops, they head back to the Great Northern, they arrest him. They frog march him out. They gave him the option of going quietly and without a fuss. And instead he takes the path of greatest resistance with Mr. Tojimuro looking onwards. And as we mentioned, the Tojimura plot is fucking over because Tojimura comes out to her husband while kissing him on the mouth. And we learn that he has not figured it out. Even after his wife kisses him on the mouth, wearing a mustache. It's like, I'm not into you like that. And but is it over? Right? I mean, she's confessed, she's come out, but they're wearing the suits. She's still in with these Japanese guys or Oriental guys, as the case may be. And it just that lingering plot is still there. It's been addressed in Lynchian fashion, but it's there. We've got fucking Leo doing fucking Leo shit. All the goodwill that Bobby has bought himself in the last few episodes is gone this episode. It's over. He is a giant piece of dog crap again. And apparently Mike is still alive because he ropes Mike into the dog crap parade.
Yeah, Mike comes back. Remember Mike?
Remember Mike? Yeah. You kind of wish you didn't because Mike also piece of dog crap. Not as much as Leo though. Fuck Leo. And we got so much little bits and bobs, right? When Mark Frost is writing the script saying, all right, well, what do we do here? All right, got to have that in there. And even if it's only for 30 seconds, it's in there. It's part of a scene. It's rational. It brings it up. There's this amazing scene between Shelley and Norma where Shelley comes in to work having yelled at Bobby saying, hey, we don't have money. I got to go to work. You have to stay here and watch Leo. And of course he doesn't. He just fucks off and does whatever he wants. But she's at the diner telling her, Norma, I have to quit. I have to take care of Leo. There's no money. And there's no way this works if I don't take care of him. So please, I don't be angry with me because I have to quit. And she goes, honey, this is your job. When you're ready to do it again, come back. And then the crazy plot of Nadine and Ed comes in, right? Norma hasn't seen Ed since they broke up. But now she's sitting there with Nadine, and Nadine's going, are you in our class? To Shelley. And the madness of Queen Nadine is on full display, and it's surreal and crazy. And as much as I hate that plot line, it works. It works here with Lynch directing it and Frost writing it, just like Julie said. So there's a lot of great stuff in this episode. There's a lot of horrifying stuff in this episode. And then there's five guys drinking coffee, which is good. But man, if that happened last episode, it'd have been better. And then we'll talk about the thing I like least in this episode. And you think it would be the coffee thing because I never stop talking about it. It's the fact that Harold Smith kills himself. Or rather, that Harold Smith was found hanged by the neck. Strong implication is he died of a broken heart because somebody made him go outside. And that the bad French means I am a solitary soul, right? It means I am utterly alone. That's a suicide note of epic proportions from a guy who's very good with words and could use any words in languages that people could actually speak in Twin Peaks, Washington. He kills himself, and it's Donna's fucking fault. And Donna realizes consequences for that action while she's talking to James in the roadhouse where they shouldn't be. smoking cigarettes and watching Captain Kangaroo or whatever kid detectives do in a roadhouse. But she says he's dead and it's my fault. He's dead and it's my fault. And James tries to talk her out of it. It's like, look, it's Harold's fault, not your fault. And it is Harold's fault. But it's also Donna's fault. Donna made him do it. Donna pushed him to the edge and beyond with her bad actions. Because she didn't listen when he told her, please don't do this.
Okay. Donna was being an asshole. But I strongly resist the idea that anybody's suicide is ever anyone else's fault.
True.
I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't with that concept.
I don't think Harold Smith kills himself if Donna didn't do what she did. It's not her fault.
Probably.
But
Yeah.
she's a prime mover in the action.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Because he was just fine until she came around.
Was he though?
Well, I mean, he got his Meals on Wheels. Somebody delivered them. When no one was delivering the Meals on Wheels, he got them just fine.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think we see his suicide differently. I see his suicide as an act of rage against Donna. Like, I think that he killed himself as revenge against her. Like that there's a maliciousness to it.
Yeah, but first he destroys all of his orchids, which he cares about, and then he rips the diary to shreds with his garden trowel, his razor sharp pinioned garden trowel.
Yeah, because he's mad.
Because he's mad, right?
He's mad.
And it seems like the rage could have ended there. I don't know why he's found hanging by the neck, right? It doesn't make a lot of narrative sense for him to kill himself. It makes sense for him to leave or get in his car and go somewhere. But
yeah,
or even hide in the house and not want to talk to Hawk, right? And see how these things can go on. But he's been there for some time. And the strong implication is that he's been there pretty much the length of a cup of coffee. That if they had put more urgency behind the act, maybe that doesn't happen. He's a stupid character, and I didn't like him. So I'm not going to miss him. Right? But Bobby and Mike get to live, and Harold Smith doesn't. And Harold Smith seemed like a nice enough guy. Certainly was Laura's friend, one of her only real friends, I would wager. Who hasn't tried to sleep with her. I didn't get the impression that they had sex. They just had a different relationship.
We get different impressions.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
Laura probably had sex with every adult man in town except for Harry Truman.
I mean, he was making friends with Donna, and his impulse is to, like, you know, serve wine to this 17-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of flirting going on. I think he and Laura did sleep together. I think, I don't know. I mean, I think Harold's a very interesting character, but I think he was a nice guy, but I think maybe he was more of a nice guy in some ways.
Oh, the nice guy.
Yeah. Because again, there was that core of rage that came out when he discovered that they were trying to read the diary. And okay, and so the thing is, I think it was really bad of him to try to, like, he clearly had a sexual fascination with the diary and with hoarding the diary. Like, he had no interest in catching Laura's killer. He clearly had,
but he knew he having had read the diary, right? He knew all the shit that had happened to Laura.
Right. And I think that he knew the diary actually was pertinent to who killed her. And he claims it isn't, but he's lying. So I guess the thing is, I won't put Harold Smith in the complete piece of shit category like Leo or Bobby or Ben Horn, but I feel like he was not exactly a poor tortured innocent in all of this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think if he'd been normal about the diary, Donna wouldn't have pushed him the way she did. You know, if he'd done the responsible thing, which would have been to give it to the police.
Yeah. Yeah, I
or
mean
the
that's
FBI
a
at
phone
least.
call, right? He could call the police and say, "Hey, these kid detectives broke into my house. They wanted this diary. Please come take it away, or please come and deal with it." That none of that happened.
Yeah, no, he clearly did not want the diary to leave because he had a, I would say, kind of a sexualized fetish for these stories that he collected from people. He took ownership of them in a kind of fetishized way.
Yeah.
And when there's not a murder going on, that's fine. I don't care. But at the point where his desire to continue to fetishize Laura's diary interferes with the investigation into her murder, that's that's a line. He's
Yeah,
crossing a line there. So
absolutely did. Luckily, he's not going to cross that line again.
no.
And I don't want to trivialize mental health issues or suicide. Right? I'm only speaking about the narrative here, not about wanting to suicidal ideation because I've had it. Right? I've been there. I didn't do it, obviously, because here I am. But I'm not tarring that. I'm not blaming any of that. The narrative fails us here. And that's the only thing I'm talking about is the narrative of Harold Smith's death. It just doesn't fit.
Although it does feel like what it's doing is it's eliminating like we're eliminating one
Take
by
a suspect
one.
away. Yeah.
Yes, we're eliminating one by one the most potent suspects for who really killed Laura Palmer.
Right.
So
Well, maybe the narrative is working, just kind of in a way I don't want. And that's a great input. Now I got to open my eyes and watch this episode again. But we'll talk more about that in our expanded coverage in just a minute.
Diane, in expanded coverage, we should talk about the greater universe and mythology of the piece. Any interesting personal takeaways, and tie the media into the greater works of the artist.
All right. So there's a few elephants in the room, but the most important one is Benjamin Horne and Leland Palmer's relationships with their daughters. Or rather, Benjamin Horne and Leland Palmer's relationship with Laura Palmer. And oh yeah, my daughter, Audrey, she's kind of over there. So these guys are not winning Father of the Year, but Leland just took the crown and buried it on the moon. He's never getting that crown back. He's an awful, awful human. He's evil. And part of that is Bob, but part of that is Leland. Because the diary pages that Cooper recovers from Smith's place detail a systematic period of abuse that goes back many years. And Bob has been in Leland's circle a long, long time. He talked about the guy living next door, right? And he was lying about that, but he knew who Bob was. And so either Bob is trying to lay a scent trail, or Leland is trying to rationalize how he knows this person and doesn't remember that he is this person or that this person even exists inside his brain. But that moment where Leland is just staring in the mirror, smiling, and Bob smiles back, that's the dig. That's the moment everything clicks into place. It's the most important moment in Twin Peaks, more so than Dale driving into town, more so than Dale taking 3 in the chest. It's this moment right here where you know what who Leland Palmer is and what Leland Palmer has done. And I want to get Julie's take on the relevance of Bob and how Bob comes to be in this section.
Well, one of the things that I think is kind of interesting is based on what Mark Frost has said about the process of creating Twin Peaks. They were fairly sure right from the start that Leland Palmer was the one who had killed Laura, but they weren't originally planning to reveal that. They just knew it. And that So Leland being the murderer is not something that sort of came to them later. However, him being possessed by Bob is that the idea of Bob as a possessing spirit was something that very much happened organically. We've talked before, in the pilot, a stray scene of, you know, one of the
Camera operators, yeah.
camera operators, just, he's caught in the mirror and it's like, oh, we can't use that. But then Lynch is like, no, keep it. And basically, he built an entire mythology around this stray, this very random stray moment, which is an incredibly David Lynch thing to do, really, is to build like basically an entire mythological universe, entire mythos around this one random moment. But the thing about Bob that we debated at the time, actually, there were people who were kind of like, Bob doesn't exist. It's just Leland. I think given where the Twin Peaks universe goes after this, it's pretty clear that we're supposed to think that Bob is literally real. That these animating, inhabiting spirits actually are out there, and they do inhabit you and cause you to do things. They do drive your body around. However, it's also in that same universe, it's also established very clearly that Bob, the most evil one of them all, really can't get into you unless you kind of invite him in. That is, he the darkness within your own soul it gives these little holes, and that's how Bob gets in. Because it's very explicit later that Bob wants Laura and can't get her, but he can get Leland and send Leland after Laura. And so the question is, well, what did Leland do that was bad enough that Bob found an entry? And I don't think Leland Palmer would have killed his daughter, but I think that Leland Palmer either abused his daughter or was already entertaining thoughts of it. That is, I think that's how we basically invited Bob in.
In the greater mythology, Bob is tied to I just forgot her name. Mom Palmer.
Sarah.
Sarah. Yeah, that's right. Bob is tied to Sarah's family. So he's tied to Laura as a result, and he's also tied to Maddie. Right? These are people who had associations with this other world and these other spirits, and the darkness follows them around, and it gets into people, like it gets into Leland, and it gets certainly into Sarah. It's glossolalia, and she sees terrible versions. And I didn't see her as being poisoned by Leland. I saw her as being stunned by evil in this episode, right? Bob takes hold of Leland and really starts pushing the pedals to make him go. And that amount of dark energy just floors her because she knows what happens, or she either knows that Laura's going to be having problems or somebody is going to get hurt because of this thing that happens to my family that I just don't ever think about until it happens.
Woe to those who see the pale horse.
Yeah. Yeah, that log lady. She's got something there. And it makes me kind of sad that no one ever told Maddie about it. Right? She should have known or had some inkling that this was a problem with their family. But she had no idea. She had no idea it was coming. And Laura certainly didn't have any idea it was coming. And not by Leland's hands, for sure. But, that meaty thwack, thwack, thwack as she's screaming for help and no one's going to come and help her. That's just heartbreaking. It's awful. And it's glorious television. It's glorious filmmaking. I never want to see it again until, tomorrow when I watch this episode again. But it's big. It's the most ambitious thing I think that Dave has ever done, and that includes, you know, a guy blowing his own head off with a shotgun in Wild at Heart, or the madness that is about to come in Lost Highway. Yeah, there's some crazy, crazy stuff going off in the David Lynch universe, but this one is right there. It's giant. Bob is. I super liked that Mike was giving the plot of the international pilot to Dale, saying, hey, he's hiding out in the Great Northern, right? Which is something they explicitly went and did in the international pilot. They went and they found Bob in the basement, and they took him out. But he was in the basement of the hospital, not the Great Northern. And so whether it was a smoke screen or some other thing, but Bob is hiding out in the Great Northern, that's because Leland works there, right? He's there all the time. That's what Mike has a sense of. And when he has this seizure, much like Sarah's seizure, when Ben Horn comes near, you're meant to think that maybe there's a little bit of Bob in him. And I think it's just that Ben spent way too much time hanging out with Leland, and that evil is rubbed off on him. Probably what.
Well, he was pretty bad to start with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things we definitely see hints of with both Leland and Ben Horn, is that these are not just guys who are terrible fathers and guys who rape 17-year-olds. These are also guys who engage in shady business dealings. They engage in shady legal practices. You know, they lie to people. They exploit people. Like you know, it's a consistent thing that they do.
Yeah, they are amoral. I mean, they're.
Yeah.
We get in May of 2026, we get daily bombarded with the actions of an amoral human, and we can't escape them. And it's soul crushing to watch the amorality on display in our country right now. But this was new in 1990. You could even imagine someone like this being in a position of great power, but small power, small towns, small universes. Yeah, they could absolutely control and destroy things. So, but Ben's reach is much larger than Leland's. Ben wants everything. He wants to own the entire town. He owns half of it already, but he wants to own the other half. Right? And Leland just wants to get his cut. He's an agent. He's a lawyer. He wants my part of that pie, and I'm going to eat that part. And I'm going to give a little bit to my family, but the majority of that pie goes in my mouth. They're not great people. They're awful people. I mean, I feel sorry for Jerry Horn if he was not amoral. He seems to have some scruples, but he goes off to One-Eye Jacks just the same as they do. He cashes those checks just the same as they do.
I don't think he has more scruples. I think he's just lazier.
Yeah, well, there is that. He's a lot lazier. Spoilers if you haven't watched Return. Both those assholes live. They make it into the 21st century. Jerry better than Ben, but they live. I think they live mainly because they were alive when the filming happened, and their characters didn't get directly killed off in season 2 of Twin Peaks. More spoilers. But there's, I mean, Dale Cooper gets taken over by Bob at the end of season 2. He spends 25 years in the lodge waiting for his time to get out, staring off into nothing with a doppelganger of Laura Palmer with her eyes rolling back and her arms spinning. Her eyes rolling up in her head and her arms spinning backwards, staring at him the entire time, right? That's fucked up. That's the ultimate failure of our hero. Is like, he didn't just fail to achieve his goal. He lost everything in pursuit of justice. And it's to see, knowing what's happening and knowing the ultimate arc of where this ends up for everybody, including Bob. I'm happy that this episode happens the way it did. If I was watching this in 1990 and I got to like 5-6 episodes from now where Heather Graham shows up and there's this weird romance thing going on and the Wyndham World stuff happens, it's like, what the fuck am I watching? What's going on here? What is happening to Twin Peaks? And most of America said the same thing. You know, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to see what's going on. This thing peaked in episode 7. So that's kind of where we are. I love the end of this. I love the bar, the Roadhouse bar, where everyone goes to Rick's, right? So everyone goes to the Roadhouse, and they're all broken by the death of Maddie, and they don't even know she's dead. But the psychic backlash of Bob taking another life, doing Bob things, reaches all the way across town and just smacks them all in the face. And that is some powerful Lynch mojo. It's how it was cut in with the act itself and their reactions to the act, even though they don't know what's going on. I think it was beautiful. It's fantastic television, fantastic filmmaking. And it hits all of our tropes, right? Because there's darkness, there's victimization of women, there's music, there's crazy lighting. It's just, you go down the checklist and they're all here because Mark Frost knew them and David Lynch knew them. They put them in their episode. Did we miss any of them?
Any of the Lynch tropes? Okay, well,
Do we
I
have
would
any
say
grotesquerie? Does Leo count?
I'd say a little bit. Like, so I think that that opening shot that you aren't so fond of, where they're basically standing there drinking coffee for like, I don't know, 5 full minutes or whatever it is. I would say that is a big David Lynch trope, which is holding a scene for just way too long. That's actually a very David Lynch trope. I also think there's a lot of David Lynch visual tropes in, like, one of the reasons I like this episode so much, it's got amazing scene transitions where almost every scene that we go into, like, it starts or it's framed in some kind of unconventional way. You know, like the fact that when the log lady appears, she basically enters log first. Like we see the log for like a prolonged period of time before we see that it's attached to a person. Or the fact that when we go to the Roadhouse, we see the reflection of the neon sign, which again clearly identifies it as being called the Bang Bang Bar. Even though nobody ever calls it that, they only ever call it the Roadhouse. The sign says the Bang Bang Bar, but we see it reflected in a muddy puddle with like a couple of beer bottles in it. um, and so I would say that framing, so there's a lot of David Lynch tropes in terms of how shots are framed, you know, things coming out of the darkness, those super hot spotlights on supernatural things is a David Lynch trope. I would, so let's see. Oh, and I would say the the kind of uh semi-industrial sound of a record going around in the inner groove. You know, because you don't think of something like that as being like industrial, but it is really, you know, it's a mechanism that's good. And I would say that that's a Lynch audio trope is the weird little mechanistic rhythmic noises of kind of everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, Eraserhead is just full of that stuff. Let's see, other tropes. Oh, in my notes, every time I saw certain tropes, I would be like, take a drink. So one of them is like, ceiling fan, take a drink. Full moon, clouds, take a drink. I think I had a third one. Red curtains, take a drink. So yeah, this thing is just chock full of David Lynch tropes.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, so let's I wish Hawk had more to do in this episode, but I'm glad he was at least here and present. And I'm hoping, again, it's been many years since I watched this. Again, I watched it multiple times in the late 90s because what else am I going to do, right? But the 3 minutes an episode I'm getting of Hawk are not enough. I mean, we got 30 seconds of Andy, and he didn't even have a line. Right? He just had a cup of coffee. I'm not even sure he drank it. He was just holding it. Kimmy Robertson was in the credits, but I didn't see her on screen. You know, we're missing parts that we'd normally have in Twin Peaks to focus on the main plot and the main through line. And I thought it really worked. Which tells us that the cast was too bloated. And yeah, we need to get rid of Harold Smith. Hopefully we get rid of Jacques whatever, the hypothetical second baby daddy soon, but we won't. He's going to stick around. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Yeah, exactly what I think about that plot. It's like, oh God, why this plot? But I think that's, I mean, Julie and I could easily talk for another hour about Bob. And I want to save that for next episode, where there's part Bob and part Leland dealing with what happened to Maddie. So I think we're ready to move on to our final thoughts. Do you have any more mythology that we want to talk about before then?
You know, final thoughts.
Well, no, we're not final thoughts.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I think we covered all the mythology stuff.
All right. Well, let's take a short break and reconnect on the other side of these trees.
In final thoughts, we share the important things we want people to take away from this week's show and anything we just really have to get off our chests that didn't fit into any of the other sections.
Final thoughts. There is darkness living in all of us. We've brought this up before, but there's darkness living in all of us, and how we deal with that darkness is where we fall on the good-evil scales. Leland Palmer is not dealing with his darkness. In fact, he has given into it. Ben Horn is not dealing with his darkness. He is absolutely embracing it. Mr. Tojimura, or rather, Catherine, is dancing on that knife edge of darkness, and we didn't talk about her all that much in Hispanic coverage because we don't like her that much. She's not. She might as well be a sexy lampshade for all that she does in this episode, which is reveal herself to her husband, who kind of was glad she was dead.
You know, I do like the scene though. I like
the scene is good.
Yeah, I like the way she comes out of the darkness and scares the hell out of him.
Yeah. But there's, our beacons of hope are very bright in this episode, and we want that to continue. But they got darkness too. We've seen Harry Truman's anger and his rage in how he deals with Albert. We've seen Andy's self-doubt. We've seen Hawk's desire for justice, but his willingness to just take action. And we've certainly seen that Gordon Cole is not exactly the shining knight we think he is. So there's darkness. Don't give in to your darkness, and fight it as long as you possibly can, because you can get through to the other side. That's my final thought.
Yeah, I guess my final thought is don't let Bob in.
Don't let Bob in.
Which is really just a short way of saying what's. In other words, don't let Bob in.
Don't let Bob in. Just say no to Bob.
Just say no to Bob.
Not our friend Bob, because we love Bob very much. Just not this Bob.
Not this Bob. Which I think is why, like, in the Wikipedia entry, they always spell it with all caps. It's always,
they always capitalize it.
Bob.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really satisfying ending to the mystery of who killed Laura Palmer. The rest of season 2 will get a little. There's some episodes I'm not exactly looking forward to.
Yeah, there's a cool down period for the events in this episode, and you can track ratings to how far away you get from this reveal. So the further that this the further you get away from what happened in this episode, the worse Twin Peaks gets. And there'll be a lot for us to talk about. There's some really good stuff in those bits, right? We'll be able to pick out some gems from the things that are going on, but it's about the town of Twin Peaks rather than the mystery of Twin Peaks from here on out. And that's kind of a sad final thought, because that's the darkness in David. David? Do it like this.
Oh, that was actually one thing I would say, not a David Lynch trope, but a Twin Peaks trope, is Twin Peaks is very good at using what I like to think of as like a cabin kitsch.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some really good use of, like, for example, the creepy painting of, like, an elk and a lake and a mountain in the background, which, it's this kind of, nobody knows who painted it. It was painted by somebody who probably wasn't very good. It's like, it's the kind of painting you see on the wall in a cabin that you're staying with, and your friend, that you and your friends are staying with, which possibly will result in you getting picked off one by one by some kind of killer. It's just that kind of a cabin. Anyway, and later on, Bob, he rams Maddie's face into that painting.
Yeah.
So, and now actually, I do not remember. Do we get people impaled on antlers? I feel like we do, but maybe
I don't
not.
recall. But
Okay.
my brain is not in an impaling mode.
Okay.
If you're watching this, drop us a line and we'll talk about it. All right. Queen of Darkness, what's next?
What's next is Drive with a Dead Girl.
All right. That's not ominous in any way.
Not at all.
Awesome. All right. Well, tell me, Julie, where can people find you online?
Well, my name is Julie McGalliard. There aren't that many of me. There aren't. It's a weird last name, so you can find me at gothhouse.org. You can find my ebooks at RS Entertainment's website. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And if you have to, you can order them off of Amazon. Like if you want a physical copy.
I am your host, Scott James Magner, the idiot with a microphone, here on YouTube or wherever you watch videos. It's usually going to be YouTube. We will be doing podcast versions of these episodes, so if you're listening to this on a podcast in the far, far future, please drop us a rating and say hi. My books are also available at rsentertainment.com. We'll talk about that after the break here. A little commercial for rsentertainment.com. It's how we monetize the stream instead of charging you money to watch it. But we're ready to go. We're back in the swing of things to talk more about Twin Peaks Season 2 for as long as we can. Thank you for watching, everyone, and stay safe out there. The woods are dark, and there's pale horses and ladies with logs. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to support the stream, please like and subscribe on whatever platform you happen to watch it. But also, consider buying some books. rsentertainment.com is a progressive publisher that focuses on independent authors and the stories that they tell. We have a curated selection of novels in science fiction, fantasy, high fantasy, space opera, horror, just about any genre that we believe needs some support, and the authors that need to do so as well. You can find this website by using this QR code or by typing rsentertainment.com into your browser and head over to our shop where you can get a free book written by me, Scott James Magner, called Homefront. Homefront is my 2014 science fiction novel, which I've later expanded into the Homefront trilogy of Invasion, Landfall, and Beachhead. But to get a sample, just go here, select the ebook, and you see it's $0. Free book delivered to you, your email. All you have to do is sign up for our mailing. That's it. That's all you need to do. Thank you very much for supporting us here at the Idiot with a Microphone channel, and we'll see you soon.